When you deal with bills that are a little bit longer, it's a lot like a math equation, but don't panic. We're going to do it step by step and just section by section. So you treat each section like its own individual bill at first. Then you can dissect it and see what you like and don't like if you haven't already figured it out by what you're looking at. This is the summary of the bill. And it's going to be dealing with section 33021 of the Education Code. So I want to highlight that. And I want to highlight that. I use specific colors for specific sections when I highlight things. So I always do my main section in green. So here's a section. This is going to be good information because many bills deal with different parts of the code or the laws. So there's the penal code, the family code, the business and commerce code. So you need to know what basis we're working with when we're adding and subtracting from a bill. So this is section 2, and it's amended. We're amending the Education Code 33.021, and this is a link. When you open this in Adobe, this is a link. So I can pull this up and see that here it is, library standards. So this is what we're working with from the get-go. Now coming back to here, look, it didn't save that. So let's highlight that in green. So now I'm going to run through and see how many sections we have, and I'm going to make sure they're highlighted in green. So this is section 1. This just tells me what we're dealing with, so I don't highlight that. That's section 2. So let's find section 3. So we're not even reading this bill. We're not doing anything with this bill right now except looking for the sections. And here's the next section. The next section is dealing with section 33.024 of the parental consent required to access. So because this is all underlined, this is all going to be added. So we know there is no bill that this is dealing with besides 33.024 because they're adding this section, right? These are links to the Education Code and to the Penal Code. So these will be references in case you need them. But right now, let's just focus on dissecting each section and we will take it as individual bills. So that's section 3. Here's section 4. So this will tell you in the Education Code, we're going to be adding chapter 35. We're going to add an entire chapter to subtitle F, title 2 of the Education Code. So we're going to skip down here because we don't care what it says yet, but that's all added. And here's the next section, section 35.003, the agency review. So now we're going to skip down. So we're just treating these, we're just dissecting this little by little. Here's section 35.005, liability. Here's the next one real quick. So don't worry about any of the 1s or the 2s or the little i's or the little c's or any of that stuff until we get this done. The rules. And this is going to be toward the end of the bill, you'll see that this will say when it's going to be enacted. So we won't worry about that until we actually do our outline. When you're looking at a bill, you treat it like the saying of you eat the elephant one bite at a time. So we're going to take this into bites. So we have highlighted each of the sections and we're just going to treat them individually. So this is section 33.021 of the Education Code, and it is amended as follows. So all of this that is underlined is added to section 33.021 of the Education Code. So within this section, we're now going to highlight in orange the subsections. Well, here we're going to do blue because I don't have an orange here. So I'm going to be looking for all of the subsections. This is still part of this section, but this is a subsection A. So let's find a subsection B, and these are the codes that this will affect. The section 28.002 of the Education Code, 4325 of the Penal Code, and 4321 of the Penal Code. So if you need to go back and look at where these definitions are, or what they used to look like, these are the places you will find those. So here's B. We did letter A, so subsection B. And again, we're not reading anything. We're just breaking this down. So you don't even have to worry. You don't have to have a whole lot of thought going on for this. We're looking for D, and let's see if there's an E. There's not. There's just a D. All right. So now we're going to break it down. You can see that we have to break this down further. So we're going to pick another color. And we'll do pink for the next color. So now I'm just looking at the subsections. So there's nothing in A. This is all just A. There's no subsections. This is all added. B has no subsections. But these things that when you see them stricken out like this, they are removing that from the current bill. We can see that section A does not have any subsections, so we don't have to worry about those. We already went through that the strike throughs are being removed from the current bill. So section C here is all being added. Now we come to subsection D. So the first thing to break down under D is number 1, and then I see a number 2. I'm going to look for a number 3. I don't see it. When you're doing subsections and subsubsections, the other thing you want to be mindful of are the ors and the ands. So when you go through the standards adopted under this subsection must, then this is going to have number 1 and number 2. That's important because you will need to know by the end, when you're collecting all this information, you need to know if you're talking about 1 out of 5 elements that have to be present for this to satisfy what the bill is saying, or is it all 5 or all 10 elements? So these ands and ors are super, super important. So we have this subsection, subsubsection. Now 2 is broken down into these 4 pieces. So let's choose another highlighter color. I haven't done yellow yet. And we're just going to highlight again. We don't need to read it yet. We've got A, B, C, D, no E, but I see an and. So we know that for 2 to be valid, it has to have A, B, C, and D. This is what we are going to do for every single section. We already did the sections plain. You do the subsections for each section, and then the subsubsections and the subsubsubsections. Make sure you get those ands and ors, because when you make your outline, that's going to be important. I always capitalize when I do my outlines, the ands and the ors, so I really pay attention. So I'm going to quickly go through here and make sure the whole bill is highlighted the way I need it to. So here's, I need to go to blue, and we've got A. Oh, look, now I'm drawing. That's great. That shouldn't cause any problems. And B. And that's all that section has. Now I'm going to go back and make sure there's not an and or an or that I need to see between A and B. Here's A, here's B. It's just 2 sections. So there's not an and or an or to be worried about. So the next section is 4. We already highlighted that. Let's do the subsections. We'll get our blue highlighter. And we're doing just definitions. So we're not worried about ands and ors because these are definitions. So 1, 2, and 3. Here's another section. So let's switch our highlighter to green. And this is just what we missed. Normally I go through and I go all of the greens first, and then I go all of the subsections and then the subsubsections. But this time we forgot some. I'm going to blame you and say we forgot it, not just me. So there's our subsections of A and B. And here's another subsection C. And here's a subsection D. and an E. This is the last subsection, so I'm going to look up here and see if there's an and or an or. There's not, so we can move on. Here's our green. Here's a new section. So we treat each section like a brand new bill. That way we don't have to get inundated or overwhelmed with sections with the whole bill. We just cut it down into sections. So this is B. So let's see if there's a C. We will get to those subsections later. Here's C. Here's D. Here's E. And again, we don't care what it says. We do look at the last two. There's not an and or an or, so we don't worry about it. So let's keep scrolling through and find another A and B. Here's an A. Is there a B to this? Here it is, way down here, B and C. And there is no and or. Here is section 5. We've got the green, so we have blue, subsection A, B, C, and that's all. I'm going to move to the pink highlighter. Yes, see, here we go. So the subsection is going to be pink. So let's get our pink highlighter. And we will move down here to see, I don't know why it has to do that. See if we have subsubsections. So we're looking for anything under these blues, right? We're looking for the minutia that is in each section that has a blue letter. So far, this is not an A, B, or C. If you read it, it says the agency shall post each listed submitted under subsection B or C. So it's just referring to the B and the C up above. Here we go. Here's subsection B. So we're looking for a number. This is 1. Either, and we're going to keep that in mind. Here's 2. So that's just 2 of them. Now, instead of saying, so here is where you're going to have either 1 or 2. So let's keep going on the, I'm not seeing any A's and B's under here. They're just referring. They're just referring back. So you don't need to highlight those. Here's 1. We're looking for 1s and 2s. When you have a subsection that's a small letter, you're going to go to a number. Then another subsection of that will be a letter again. It'll go back and forth, so it's less confusing. So here's a 2. So I've got a 1 and a 2. Let's see if there are any 3s, 4s, 5s. Here's a 3. And here's an and. So that's important. We want to make sure that we have that highlighted. That's important. So let's keep going. We're not paying attention much to the bill itself. We're just looking for more letters and numbers. And that's it. So we do have some more sections. So let's go back to the section and change our highlighter color because we have yellow now. To see if there's anything else under the pink highlighted area. So these are blue. We can skip through all this. Okay, here we go. Here's pink. So now we've moved to yellow. So now we're going to do A. This was a number. So this is a letter A, letter B. And then we look between the two. Is there an and or? Yes. So let's highlight that as well. Let's keep moving. Is there anything else under any of these subsections? No. And we're just looking at pink. We've already done the subsections of blue. So we're just looking at the pink numbers. Is there anything else in here that we need to highlight? Because this is what's going to go in our outline. So here's under 3, we've moved to an A and a B. There's no C, so I'm going to look between the A and the B, and there's an and.